I'm going to introduce Sean. 5 billion views behind videos that he was producing, executive producing. Average viewership for Survivor, 29 million viewers. At its peak, top viewership for American Idol, 30 million viewers. Season 1 and Season 2 of Beast Games, 50 million viewers. In the US, 80 million worldwide. It was the #1 reason Amazon Prime grew last year. I will say this, I think this is a really unique fireside chat because sometimes you get an opportunity to think about, it's like whatever we're doing right now, you never know where you're gonna find yourself 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I have a feeling you might get a nugget from this conversation that you'll end up using way later. Okay, I'm gonna put it out there. And he has some examples, some stories. I might double stamp them for hey, you want to remember that because we talked a little bit. We actually recorded a 2-hour podcast together yesterday, and in advance of this, and I was like, okay, there's some stuff to talk about tomorrow. Okay, so where to even start on Sean? Here's what I'll say. I met him 2 years ago in my bathing suit because I was I was in Mexico. Yeah. Come on up. Come on. Let me serenade you. Yeah, come sit down. 2 years ago, it was like this odd email I got from a off-brand email. I wasn't quite sure what it was. I don't know if it had Beast in the Gmail or whatever, but I was like, is this real? I don't know. So I'm on vacation. I end up taking the call. It's Sean. At the time, he was responsible for relaunching Feastables and had called us to say, hey, love what you guys do. I think there's some things that you could do to help us, with what we're doing. We're trying to do a lot of stuff. That's how we originally met, and we became friends. But then, over the last 2 years, I've gone on to watch him become one of the top producers for the main channel. 5 billion views behind videos that he was producing, executive producing. Then went on to co-create a little show called Beast Games. Now, I don't think everyone, because the world's become very fragmented, if you will. I don't think everyone understands how big Beast Games is. I'm gonna drop a couple knowledge bombs, even on Sean, that he doesn't know, because we all love shows like American Idol, or I think a personal favorite of yours, Survivor. Okay, at its peak, average viewership for Survivor, 29 million viewers. At its peak, top viewership for American Idol, 30 million viewers. Season 1 and Season 2 of Beast Games, 50 million viewers. In the US, 80 million worldwide. It was the #1 reason Amazon Prime grew last year, right? And so we're talking about, to call this a success is an understatement. But what's even cooler is that we're gonna be talking today a little, not just about that experience, but Sean has been responsible for bringing brands into this journey, right? Integrating them in. What works? What doesn't? How people got value out of that? How people make mistakes? And so we're going to be asking a lot of questions about how do people at the top level, with Super Bowl size audiences, how are they making smart decisions? Where do brands give terrible briefs? Where do they see success? So with no further ado, and I'm excited we have 5-10 extra minutes for this. I got my friend Sean Klitzner. And I don't think you got a mic, so here you go.
Wait, okay, but you're getting a mic. Good. So many places to start with. I'll tell you just off the rip is I absolutely love working with brands because I used to be part of brands. So I was, working at Game Show Network, or, I was a YouTuber back in 2004. So I've been doing this a lot. Well, YouTuber. I was making digital content before YouTube, and I was putting it on eBaum's World and College Humor. So I've been in this game a very, 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 very long time.
His YouTube is /Sean.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was early enough to when I had my daughter, Brooklyn, I got /Brooklyn. So very early on, I think this looks so familiar. They built around it. I think this was YouTube Space LA, which was a thing
I wouldn't know.
for YouTubers. It was close to here if it wasn't here. Is it? Yeah. So it was a place for YouTubers. We would come, and I was like part of the grandfather team of like the first people who came in when YouTube was just a platform. They didn't touch content. We're just a platform. I'm giving more of a reason why the brands thing. So it is so frustrating to be a brand and try to, first of all, half the time when you have to work with a brand, you're talking with somebody who you're really just trying to like make them good for their boss, right? And nobody really talks about those things. And so when I joined the Beast Company and my responsibility is one thing and then another thing and then another thing, at some point I just said, I want to take it all. I want to create content, period. That means camera and editing and casting and brands. And it is just such... It's like when you're creating things, and I'll just talk to Beast, but I've done it across 20 years here. But when you're creating some really, really cool shit, you're creating really cool shit. The last thing you want to do is break up the explosions, and you're giving away $1 million to stop and go, I'm not going to name an actual brand, but hey, before anything else, take a look at this brand. Nobody wants to watch that, right? So for me, the most fun has been, how do I make it so that we're gaining when dealing with a brand? And that's why you and I become really good friends. That's why I found you. And, it was through the Squatch commercials. You're like a celebrity. I was like nervous out there. I was like, oh my God, it's the Squatch guy.
Did you get a photo yet?
What's that?
Did you get a photo with them yet?
No, stop.
All right, we'll get
You're
a photo.
embarrassing me. So I love doing it. And can I just I'm sorry, I'm just going. I get really passionate and excited, but
I mean, the show is yours. The show is yours.
all right.
Please.
We talked about this yesterday. He said, "What's your favorite brand you've ever worked with or brand integration?" And instantly, I mean, I have a couple, but what we did, Beast Games. Anybody watching Beast Games this season? Okay. We had, so the concept of Beast Games, season 1, it's the biggest show in the world. We have, 1,000 contestants, $5 million, biggest prize, most cameras. We broke 42 records. Season 2 was the most strong and smart people we're going to bring together. And in this, we have 200 people competing. On Survivor, they live on an island. They don't go back to a hotel. In our show, they live in a city. We built a city for them. And in season 1, it was a basic city. They had dorms, and they had, we had a big building, and we had like places they can go and a basketball court. In season 2, the idea was, I remember when we were conceptualizing the city, futuristic, and we'd always throw out there, like, it would be really sick if we had like a Chipotle or a Starbucks. We'd always say Starbucks, Chipotle. That is just cool. And so as we're approaching the show, when Starbucks reached out, was like, would you guys be open to putting a Starbucks in the city? I was like, all right, don't tell them this, but I'll do it for free. Like that is, and it's still such a cool thing. And then we start breaking down why. And this was the big fight that I had with Starbucks, because when I work with a brand, and this is what you want as brands, is I treat the brand like it's my own. Like I want, like Starbucks is my company personally. Like I started Starbucks. That's how I think about it, to a 10. And so Starbucks comes in, and we got them, they it was a brand integration, and they go, we want the Starbucks in the city. Here are some of the, guidelines, like, it can be open at 9 in the morning and then closes at 6 at night. And I just sat there and I'm like, that is just not cool. Cool is 24/7 Starbucks. You have to be open every minute of the day, whether we're filming or not. Make it a real Starbucks in our city. And even now when people talk about it, like I said, why was it cool? You're like, Starbucks at any time you want?
It tapped into this like childhoodness, like this sense of, I was like, man, like here you are, you're competing for $5 million. That's cool. But there was also this sense of like, man, that would be really cool. Like as a kid, just the idea of like a buffet is one thing, but like a Starbucks,
and even where, like even the location, like we thought about everything. Where they slept to where the Starbucks was, is about one side of a big home to another side of the big home. Like you could wake up and either go to the bathroom, or in that same amount of steps, you can go get a coffee or a grilled cheese from Starbucks. That was really cool. So I fought for that. And so you would think, like, of course Starbucks wants to do it, but there's so many limitations. Well, we have to get it through legal. And I'm like, I will talk to everybody. It was that important. The second thing, which was arguably my favorite thing, is they go,
Oh, wait.
oh, go ahead.
I started this by saying there'll be stories you think about years from now. This will be one of them. So continue.
This was like a non-negotiable for me. They said, well, first of all, they were really gracious with us. They said, just lawyers, we have to put in the contract, like you have to show our product, right? That'll always be in the contract. But then you have that human connection with somebody. And so I would talk to, I think it's Tressie, who's the CMO over there, and she was wonderful, and she just was like, yeah, it's everything in there, but I know I trust you. You're going to take care of our brand. I said, of course. So there's in there like two, you got to see it twice, and they have to say it once. I'm like, it's going to be so easy to incorporate this brand. This is great. And that was in our contract. That was it. I then went to them and said, you can make our content better if you give away Starbucks for life. And I have the exact bit how we do it. We're going to go in the Cube episode, they can ask for anything. We have a Starbucks. I know somebody's going to ask for Starbucks. And if they do, they win Starbucks for life. First person. The questions start coming. What if nobody gets Starbucks? Then nobody wins Starbucks for life. And Jimmy goes, you guys had the opportunity to win Starbucks for life. It's real. It's what everybody has been saying. It's authentic. It's real. There's no BS here. So they come back and they go, it's really difficult for a company like Starbucks to just go, okay, we're going to give this massive, it's our biggest prize, which I actually came up with a bigger prize for them, but we'll see if they use it. It's such a cooler prize. But anyway, it's their biggest prize. They said, we can do Starbucks for a year. Done deal. The team comes to me, we're celebrating, and I was like, all right, this is the real truth of what you just said. We will do Starbucks for a year, because that's what you can do. It probably won't make the show, but we'll still do it. And they're like, what do you mean, Starbucks for a year? I was like, in 5 years from now, when people are binging our show, they're going to look at that and go, oh, I guess. If it's Starbucks for life, there's going to be people 5, 10, 15 years from now going, that dude still, or that girl, whoever won it, still has Starbucks. That is so powerful. That is such a huge, big integration.
I'm going to interrupt to say I'm on episode 9 because the last one's out.
Yeah.
Sean's going to tell us who won it. I'm just kidding. But I remember I was thinking, I was like, before you even talked about this brand integration, I was like, I remember that Starbucks was there. I thought that was great. And I remember the Starbucks for life. And I had this moment where I was like, if it was Starbucks for a year, I would have forgotten it. Like the minute it happened, and I'm like, okay. Because the difference, here's why. The difference is like when it's for a year, you go, okay, like my brain goes, okay, well, $5 a day times 365. Okay, it's like, it's a couple grand worth, right? But when it said for life, for the same reason that it made them uncomfortable, it was a reason it stuck with me. I started thinking, like, for life, how does that work? Like 5 times 365. I wonder if they can get it for people. There must be, I don't know. Do they have like a card? There must be a card. Like, all of a sudden, my brain is like thinking about all this. And so, like, as we sat down, I was like, I don't remember any other ad read. I remember both of those Starbucks moments. And I'm like, okay, that's impact. How many times have we done a giveaway or a promotion and we've given away a year of product, a month of product? And I'm like, honestly, a lifetime of product for some people, like, isn't that much, right? But it has a crazy amount of impact in comparison. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Can I close the loop on this?
Oh, no, yes.
To close the loop on this, well, 2 things. One is if when it came down to like episode 4, we went to Survivor. Sorry, spoiler, but it was awesome. But you had to find a cannonball in the city. There were 10 hidden in the city. And there was a drink called the Cannonball drink. And because I had a really good relationship with them and they trusted, I took really good care of the brand. I called them up and I was like, hey, we're going to hide a cannonball in your Starbucks. They're like, yeah. I was like, we're going to put it on the menu. And then I keep going further and further because this is not, oh, we're going to make you happy because you're our client. This was like, hey, you're helping me make really good content, right? The authentic, really good content. And I mean, I gave the suggestion, and I was like, you guys should drop a cannonball drink during this episode. And that sparked something, and they took that, and they're like, we're going to drop a drink every episode. I was like, awesome. But 4 is cannonball, right? Yeah. Because it has to, like, that really makes sense. So when you have that care, and I know the buzzwords keep going up there, but everything will lead to care. If you have people who care for your company, whether it's in your company as much as you do, then you are, I mean, that is the first and the biggest step. And I was talking to Connor about this as well, and that's one of his core values as well, is care. Last thing.
Connor with Grunes or Connor with Ridge?
Grunes.
Okay, with Grunes. Okay, there's a lot of.
But the last thing I have to say, because I never said this, is I have to say this. I am no longer working for the Mr. Beast Company. After season 2, we parted ways. It was time. I had been there 3.5 years. I was in a long-distance family. So lots of reasons why I'm off doing my own stuff, but I have to say that legally.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Appreciate you sharing that. I should have shared.
Forgot about that.
No, you're good. You're good. We'll record me saying it later and we'll slide it in. I also, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, we spent a lot of time talking about, yes, the show and everything else, but there's this universal skill that you have brought to the storytelling and to the business that, I found myself asking myself, kind of like, what would Sean do? How would Sean think? Yeah. And it's a sense of problem solving, right? For how to make this idea bigger, better, get the no's out of the way to get to the things that are going to matter. I'd love for you to share just a little bit about that. Because if I were to take a step back, it's like, okay, you've been working with what I say is like this generation's Walt Disney, like a true genius, and we'll talk a little bit about that. That's not just a genius, but willing to outwork everybody. Yeah. And you have been there as a right-hand person for years, bringing your special skill set, and it's something that I think every, not just brand, but person would love to hear about. Like, how do you get to getting the yeses when everyone else is saying no? What does that look like in problem solving?
Yeah, I know exactly how I'm going to angle this. I've started doing like mentoring because I really get into it. We were talking about this, and I'll get to the answer, but in my phase right now, it's like, what are you going to do next? I get that question so often, and it's like I have a mindset really of an athlete because they're public about their mindset, Kobe and Brady, and they talk about they win the Super Bowl and then they're like, training tomorrow. Like I've got to keep practicing, so that's why I do it. And what we're talking about is problem solving right now. And I have this concept that I've coined for 20 years, which is kind of like a spoiled brat mindset, because we could all relate to having kids or nieces, nephews, or seeing kids in parks, and they're, you look at them and you're like, you're such a spoiled brat. And what life and what we have done in this world is we have put up limitations on all children, including ourselves when our parents did it. There's no's. And kids don't understand what a no is until you explain to them what a no is. So great example, and this is how I think in problem solving, is like my 8-year-old, the other day, she was like, can I have ice cream at 6 o'clock right before dinner? And I said no. And she said, why? And I said, well, you don't have dessert before dinner. You'll spoil your appetite. We go through the whole thing. And I end up getting to the point where I go, she's right. Why can't she have, if she delivers on the promise, has dessert, then dinner, what's the problem? So I gave her dessert. She ate some of her dinner. She didn't eat it all. And then the thought we all have right now is, well, I have to tell my daughter the lesson. See, honey, this is why we eat dessert after dinner. That's not the answer. The answer is, hey, maybe you should have had half the dessert so you had enough room for dinner. Let's try that again tomorrow. And that's the mindset she has. And so when you try to problem solve, the very first thing you have to do is understand all of the information. You have, because
give them the hotel analogy, because that's another story that will stick with me forever.
Well, it's the question I ask in every interview I have, because I really don't care about a resume. I care how you're going to think. And so I put you in a life situation, or else every interview you have when you hire employees or try to get hired yourself, the breakdown of that really is Your skill set is convincing somebody to give you a job, all right? That's all it is. Because we take what we've done and we turn that into stories, and then we try to pitch somebody. Then they hire you and they say, do this work. And you're like, ooh, all right, fake it till I make it, right? We've all been there. So the question I ask, just to see how they think, and nobody, I think one person out of like, I don't know, thousands of people that I've interviewed, because I interview a lot of people, got it right. Like really got it right. And I think they got it right by accident. So again, the idea is that you have to know the information. You have to like really understand the problem you're trying to solve, et cetera, because we are conditioned to be problem solvers. That's why we get paid, right? We are creative problem solvers. We execute, and we don't take steps back. So the question I ask, it's a real thing that happened where I was the producer. We're producing a video where we're going to give a tour to a hotel, all right? So just think of it, I'll break it down into simple terms. I'm the host. I'm doing a video. I'm going to do a walkthrough of a hotel. I'm going to show you the room, the bar, the pool, the restaurant, the casino, the outdoor basketball court. I'm going to show you everything that this hotel has to offer, and I'm the host. All right, we're going to pause for a sec. I'm the host. When I wake up, the best work you're going to get from me is whatever I want to do. Too many times when we do productions, there'll be a whole schedule. All right, Sean, you're going to wake up. You're going to start over here. You're going to get breakfast at the restaurant. Well, what if I wake up and I'm not hungry? Now I've got to fake it. What if I wake up, I'm going to stand, because I'm like really into this. I get really passionate.
Someone get him food. I'm just kidding.
So I wake up, all right, and, you know, producers call me because we're filming today, and they come into my room, and I go, guys, roll cameras right now. All right, I'm going to show you this room. I'm into that. If they stopped me and said, no, we're going to do this at like 6 p.m. By the time 6 p.m. comes around, I'm like, okay, let me fake it. All right, we're in the room, and it's not authentic. It's not real, right? Real content, the next generation of viewers, everybody can recognize it so quickly. So as a producer, you're all going to be producers. You're going to think of your answers. As producers, the day before we film, and I'm your host, you walk through the entire hotel. You do a walkthrough. You see the pool, you see the hotel rooms, you see the restaurant. You are literally making sure everything is perfect, because when we wake up, we can go anywhere, all right? And everything is great. You get to the restaurant, lights are set up, they have a back room, everything is perfect. You know what they're going to cook you, or cook for me when I go in. The only thing the manager asks you on your way out is the manager goes, what time should we expect you tomorrow? What time are you coming tomorrow? That's the only thing he asks you. So without saying anything, everybody just think of what your answers are, because you're the producer, all right? Think of what you would do. And make an assumption while you're doing this that you can't just call, because it wouldn't matter. If you called me and said, Sean, when would you want to go to the restaurant? It still could change the next morning. So really I'm gonna stop talking. Take 20 seconds, really think of how you would answer this manager, and then I'm gonna give you what everybody in here thought in one of like 3 versions. So really think about it. What would you do?
I got this wrong yesterday, by the way.
He came close.
I mean, ballpark.
All right. I'm going to start talking through all of the answers I've gotten. Answer number 1 is, and there's somebody who thought this, is, well, I would solve this by giving a time and then making sure we stick to that time. So I'm interviewing producers all the time. That's the response I get back. Now, I've just given the answer that we can't do that. So that's the first thing in an interview that I have to see if somebody's like that. It doesn't eliminate them, because I'm going to explain it to them and then see how they react to them hearing that they got it wrong. You know, do they try to fight me back? Like it's a great exercise. So that's one answer people give. It's an execution answer. We've got to get the job done. And that can sometimes be confused in a company as being really, really good, because they execute, execute, execute. Mistakes will be made by doing that. All right, that's one answer. Then people start thinking, all right, there's a trick here. There's no trick, by the way. There's a trick here. So they start going one more, and they go, okay, I would tell the manager, I would say, well, manager, we need a little bit of flexibility, right? And you might start getting into this world of, well, I need to educate the manager. Well, we don't know what time we're going to get there, right? Anybody do that? Because that's kind of what you said. That's on the right track. Those are really the two base answers. I'm just curious if anybody had anything else that I'm not thinking of. Yeah, what was your answer?
I would ask the host what time of the day do they prefer to create content, and then work around that.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Yeah? I love that. Expect us anytime. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, one more. Yeah. So I actually gave the answer right before I started, and it's one of the reasons why I go through that whole exercise, is I almost throw you off from the answer. I give you the answer. This is the answer to the question. And I've even gone to the fact, and this is how I know, because I've done a lot of interviews. There have been interviews, I'm testing this theory more so than interviewing. And I'm literally spelling out answers for people where I go, the answer to the question I'm about to give you is this. I swear to God I've done this. And then I go into the long thing, and then I go into the question, and they still don't get it right. And the proof, I'll give you one more retry. The proof that I'm trying to create here is not that this is how you have to do something. It's that we are so preconditioned to executing that, and somebody might have done this, did anybody think, what problem am I trying to solve? Because we all go into like answer, solution, answer. This guy asked the question for a reason. I have no idea what solution I'm trying to solve. So no matter how good your answer is, and you can say, well, we're going to give him a range, and I'm going to explain everything to this person, to this guy. But at the end of the day, if you don't know his problem, you're solving a completely different issue. So this is a real thing that happened, and I went through the exercise I go through, which is just, I make connections. It's not transactional. And I find out that he goes, well, there's two reasons I'm asking. So I was like, ooh, okay. And he goes, reason number one. Yeah.
You didn't clarify that you asked him why he's asking.
Oh, I did. I said to him, I said, hey, and you say it in different ways. I'm not like, every interaction I have where they're like, hey, what time should you be here? Why are you asking? It's like a little more gentle. It's like, I totally get it. You probably need to know what time we're coming. I'm just curious what variables are on your end, just kind of casually talking. And they go, well, we actually have a chef who leaves at 9. I go, oh, okay. Well, now think of your answers. Everybody's answer should change. Your answer should change because now you know what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And then the other thing he said was, also, we have to prep the food. There's food prep time. So now the close answers are, which you actually said is, I would say to the manager, well, I will call you while we're on our way there, but you still don't know how much time you need. You don't have all the information. So anyway, I'll wrap up what ended up happening. I have two problems here. I did one solution, which is what you said, but didn't solve the other problem, which was, hey, let me just get your cell phone. I'll text you throughout the day. I think they said they needed 30 minutes to thaw out the food because they wanted it to be, a great dining experience. So anyway, that solved that. And then the 9 o'clock at night, the chef's going to leave. Well, I had a feeling we were going to do dinner, and we were going to probably be there at 10 or 11. And they closed down the restaurant, all of that. So now I know what the problem is. Now it's much easier. And again, I don't jump into, let me talk to the chef. I was like, all right, is there value in talking to the chef other than trying to convince him to stay? Yes, I want to know what the menu is. So I went down that road. Genuine, real, authentic relationship. Got the chef on the phone, talked to him about the menu, mentioned, hey, I heard you're leaving at 9 tomorrow. Totally cool. He said, I'm not leaving at 9. I went, oh, manager thinks you're leaving at 9. He goes, I'm going to call the manager. I'll let him know. We could do it anytime you want. Great, we win. But hold on. because I'm about to ruin a relationship with a manager. Do you mind if I call the manager first? Just let him know you and I spoke and you're about to call him, because I don't want there to be misunderstandings. Call the manager, let him know everything was great at the end of it. It was a misunderstanding because the guys said a comment or something like, my kid's birthday is the next day, so the manager connected the wrongful dots and just said, he has to leave at 9, right? We solved the problem. Everything was great. We ended up eating. It's a great video. It was called One Through, I think, $1 versus $1 million hotel. You could watch that. It was the Palms Casino. It's a real story. But yeah, so that's that story.
Thank you for sharing that story, because I took that away. I've seen him in action, problem solving, always dealing with people, because it's always people you're dealing with. And I sensed it firsthand too, because when you called us, you're like, hey, we're filming in 3 weeks. I was like, what are you filming? You're like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay. You're like, how can I help you? I'm not sure yet. Okay. And it was like,
but I really like that commercial you did. Tell me about you. I mean, that's what it was. You're on vacation. I really like this commercial you put together.
And where I was going with it is like, you problem solve. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you shot 8 different videos in like a 48-hour span.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was 3 weeks out from filming, and
We
you weren't
didn't
sure
have
what
an
you were
idea.
doing yet.
Yeah.
So I just want to, like, the amount of fast problem solving that is done, I just learned firsthand. And I'm like, I left yesterday thinking, man, I need to start applying that more often, because so often I go into problem solving mode. It doesn't matter what it is, without asking, like, what do you need, or why do you ask? Yeah. It's such a great question. I also, since it is on topic there, you were part of relaunching Feastables. It's been a tremendous success. What did you learn, even in your part of it? I can't remember. Were you also in charge of shorts and?
Yeah, it was all content for the relaunch
Yes.
of the blue Feastables.
New Feastable. So, what did you learn about? What did you learn about launching the brand? What are you glad that you did? And maybe, is there anything you would have done differently? But I know a lot of things went well. So, like, what are you glad you did as part of that relaunch? And what do you feel like was a big part of that success?
A lot of questions there. I will go with what did I learn? I think because it was a time period of my life where I went all in. I knew that the company needed somebody who was just going to dedicate their entire life. I was in a long distance family, like I said, and I told my wife, who is the reason I was able to do it all, I just said, hey, at least for the next 6 months, I'm not going to see you or the kids. I'm not going to come home. You guys have to come up if you can. But there were times they came up, and I'd go to sleep after they were asleep. I'd wake up before they were up, like they were just there, right? But it was still great. Anyway, sob story. So, but what I learned in that moment was that we're not fighting for people's money. And you had mentioned something about we don't have a small attention span, and we're saying the same thing here. We're fighting for the resource of their time as a whole, all right? We think kids and the next generation has a short attention span because they're constantly just flicking through and going to the next thing and jumping all around. But if you really think about it, they have, and all of us, make a decision that we are going to now invest in content. So as a brand, you're really not going after people's money. You're saying, hey, I want to take some of your time, and that's the resource you want. Once you have that from them, you'll have them. You'll have them for life. I mean, I can't even pronounce it. The Opop. What is it?
Opopop.
Opopop. Opopop. Yes. Are they here?
No, but shout out to Opopop.
So pissed at them. Cost me a fortune. Anyway, but it's a good example. Is they got my time, and then the money came, and they're a great product, and you have to follow with that. So, to kind of close that loop there, it's like when you're in an elevator and you're flipping through Instagrams, you said in your brain, I'm dedicating the next 25 seconds to swiping, all right? And now it's a natural habit that you have. That is what you've given. So you want to take some of that real estate from the people out there And also, most people are lying to themselves because they get off the elevator and then you lose them in zombie mode and they just start walking and now you got them. And so now they're hooked on whatever they're watching, even though they only thought they dedicated X amount of time. But that is something I really learned during that shoot was, it's content first,
Well, and I know you've spoken a little bit too about like the idea of, if you're sitting in your living room and someone wants to woo you to their pizza place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a good one.
I love that analogy. I'd love for you to share that because I think the mindset of it, like if I were the synergies of like, okay, well, why does this work? Like, how can you create advertising that people genuinely love, that they're watching because they love it? Like, how is that different than, again, I said earlier, like, OMG, I'm obsessed, like, buy this. How does it all look and feel to you? Like, what do you see around, because honestly, it's like everything you do has built relationship with viewers. I mean, I feel like I didn't quite frame this up either in the intro. It was like you were really there when the episodes went from being 3 minutes long to 30 minutes long on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was like it was a transformation.
10 to 12, but yes, they went from that was the standard to like 30
yes.
minutes, 40
there
minutes.
You go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
but also, I have a company that I started with a friend of mine, and we're doing Roblox games now. It's the same thing. Everybody is in the community building space. And any brand out there right now, if you're sitting there, you have one of two choices. I think Connor said this too. One of two choices. You either are going to do YouTube or you're not. Well, for me, it's one of two choices. You're either going to open up a branch of your company, of your business, as a production studio, which everybody in here should do, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, but it's very unreasonable. Or you've got to find somebody who can dedicate and care and do it for you. You have to. But every single business needs to be content creators. Like, that is just how people are consuming content these days. What was the question?
the question was
the pizza thing. Yeah. So this is the common psychology of all of us when we're on our phones. It's a second life for us. It is our safe space. We have a passcode to get into our other life. So just picture when you're on that device. You're in your home, very comfortable. It's warm inside, right? It's a cold night outside. You're on your phone or you're watching TV. You're just relaxing. And it's very quiet. You have a little bit of I'm setting the stage. You have a little bit of music playing. You have maybe like a little glass of wine. And then the loudest bang happens on your door. And think The Shining. Somebody has an axe and they just like slash through your door. A piece comes out. They stick their head in. And think of how you are. You are terrified. If this really happened, you're terrified. You're on your couch. They reach in, they open the door, they start walking right towards you. You're like, holy shit, man. Like, who are you? What are you doing? They just look at you and they go, what's up? I'm John. I have a pizza place down the way. Go try my pizza. You're like, get the fuck out of my house, John. This is crazy, man. I'm calling the cops. Get out. That's what it feels like when you get served an ad that is just like, I didn't dedicate my time to watch that. I dedicated my time because I wanted to watch a YouTube video. So now, take it back. John's crazy. He's not in the picture. Your door is fine. You're sitting on the sofa. Same setup. And in the near distant, there's a high school, and you hear the marching band playing. You're like, man, this is life. I love this. And that marching band starts getting a little louder. You're like, they're probably having a great time there. Then it gets a little louder, and you're like, is there a marching band coming toward all of us in our neighborhood? And the more you start thinking, the more louder it gets, to the point where you get up. You're like, what is that? And you look out your blinds, and there's literally a marching band that has now come in. Thank you. AV back there. Shout out. Jesus Christ. The marching band has now formulated in front of your house. And you look out your blinds, you're like, that's a marching band. And you go outside your door, and you go, what is happening here? What is this? And then very subtly, the marching band stops, and somebody goes, hey, we just wanted to tell you about John's Pizza Place. And you're like, you got me. That is good marketing content. You literally opened your door for an advertisement. You were comfortable in your own place, and something just kind of caught your attention. And so when we're trying to get that resource of time from consumers, once you get it, you have to recognize people don't go online to look at ads. They don't go on traditionally, like sometimes they'll see it and they'll want to reference it. I'm talking about when somebody is dedicating time to go into zombie mode, as I call it. You have to tell them that you're okay, you're not a stranger, and you're here to deliver on what they want. And what they want is not your product, because that's not why they went on there. That's not who you're targeting. They want just an entertaining, calming, good experience. Doesn't mean your video has to be calming or your marketing has to be calming, but they want something and you're now infiltrating. So think of that when you're going into like a round of like meta ads or YouTube ads or whatever you're trying to kind of do, is that you're really going for somebody's time. And I don't know. I'll wrap that up.
Oh man, I love that story. So we have time for some Q&A. I'm so glad we saved some. Can we get those cool throwy things? Oh, it's up here. I got it.
That's fun.
Now, traditionally, these are soft, and traditionally I have thrown them. Oh yeah, they're so soft. I am going to throw them. Okay. Here's what I'll say. If there's something he can't answer, then he won't answer. Like I said, we can't talk about who wins next week. But I would say, other than that, probably no questions off limits.
I'll answer anything.
You got Sean. Yes, here we go. Boom.
From working with Mr. Beast, what'd you learn about going big?
More context. What do you mean?
I just was always amazed at how he broke out by going enormous with the giveaways or what he did, and and a little bit of the background and how you guys started working. He was a content creator doing stuff and really not getting anywhere, and then he was able to really focus in on, like, I think at one point he made some money and he took all of his money and got more money and went so big, and then all the way to what you guys have done with Beast Games. Again, I always get the sense his brand is about going bigger and bigger, and it keeps drawing more and more things to it. That sort of bigness, the audacity of it.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I got on with Amazon for season 2, and so I came in halfway through season 1 pre-production and kind of came in, and you can read online about season 1 and kind of try to come in and help. For season 2, I got to kind of own it, which was really cool. And I remember getting on with Amazon, and they asked that question: how are we going bigger? Right? Because that's the brand. That's the idea of the brand. And I answered the question to them the same way I answered to you. What's your name? Rob. So I answered the question to Amazon the same way I answered to Rob, which was, I think we need to define what bigger is. Because I think in your head, you guys want more money. You guys want bigger sets. You want more people. But we have to just evolve. And that's kind of, I'll talk not from a company standpoint because I can't, but from my standpoint. When I want to create the next thing that I'm doing, and it applied doing Beast Games, it's how do we evolve whatever we're doing? And that comes from data. So I'm going to tie everything in because we're here for marketing, but that's literally how we create in the marketing world as well. Is you go back, we watched season 1 again, we ripped it apart, and we said, okay, now we have to be more evolved here. So we don't need 1,000 players. We don't need 2,000, 3,000 players. We need maybe 200 of the strongest and smartest, and that still will be evolved. That still will be bigger in a sense, We just applied that across the board. How do we get story? How do we evolve our story? Because how would you apply bigger story from season 1 to season 2? But evolved story means we cut down on contestants much quicker, and now we can dive into personalities. So
I just want to point out, because it's kind of crazy. Season 1, the person won $10 million. One person won $10 million with a coin flip. We're in season 2, 9 episodes in. Again, spoiler, plug your ear, but the $5 million flip coin's gone, but it's still maybe 3 times as compelling as the first season because you've gone so much deeper with the number of people that are left. I feel like I know them. I know who I'm cheering for, who I'm not cheering, who I'm cheering against. I love that you defined the idea of, like, sometimes better doesn't mean going bigger, maybe more intentional.
More intentional is a great way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, over here. Wait for the mic. It's going to be thrown to you. You look like you can catch.
Ready? Yeah, let's do it.
Woo!
All right.
Good catch. What's your name?
Sam.
Hey, Sam.
So quick question. I know you've been on basically the media business side and as well as the brand side. How does content differ, in terms of getting sales and, making money? I know for the media business side, again, the bigger the better. You're trying to, get paid through different platforms, and with the consumer business, it's kind of entirely different. I know you were saying that you need to be targeted towards, a smaller set of buyers who are potentially going to be interested. But on the media buying side, it is, a lot different. So let's say if you were a brand today, what would your main focus and SOP be in terms of does it need to be a specific smaller set of audience that is interested in one specific problem versus, kind of building that media side?
I started smiling because I understand maybe 70% of your question. I was going to turn and say, "Can you translate that for me?" Because he used 3-letter words and
I appreciate it.
3-letter acronyms.
I mean, I'm actually going to ask
Explain
you.
the
I'm
question.
actually going to ask you to distill the question because there was a lot of context.
So
but-
again, there's a lot of brand builders out here, and everyone always says, "Hey, at the end of the day, you have to focus on organic, and every company needs to be a media business, right?" But again, a lot of that media business does bring in top of the funnel audience, but not sales specifically. And I know, again, there's some very niche podcasts nowadays that, do big numbers, but it's only because their audience is very specific. So the question here is, if you were a brand building organic presence, would you try to go the Mr. Beast route where you get a bunch of top of the funnel audience, get the brand awareness out there, and then sell a consumable? Or hunker down into a specific problem that a very small percentage of people do currently have, build trust in that, and charge a premium?
Okay, I got it. And I have a lot more context there, thanks. So this was me going into research mode by asking again, and you repeat it again. And so here's what I would do, all right? I'm literally going to tell you what me as a human being would do, not knowing as much as all of you. Again, top of funnel, I've heard these terms, I understand what that kind of stuff is, but there's things that I won't get. So if I give you advice, I mean, there's 90% of the stuff that you'll say, he didn't take this into consideration. So what I would do is, just like I do to any business I've started or anything I go after, is I lay out what I need to learn. So I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, because what I really would do is I would start with putting aside a set amount of money that I know I'm going to make a mistake, because I am churning data right now, and I need to understand what's working and what's not. And the big thing that connected with me was when you said, somebody will do something right and then they'll move off that. Well, in our world of creating organic content, if you want to look out at what other brands are doing, you look at something called an outlier, which is they did consistent numbers here and then one video popped up there. Now I want to do my version of that. So what I would do is I'd start researching brands that are in the same genre as what I'm doing. What they're doing wrong is going to be gold for me. What they're doing right, actually a little more tougher to understand what they did, unless I had enough patterns to where I go, every one of these had a celebrity in it, something like that. So the variables have to match up. But I would go into full research mode into brands that are doing it great, brands that I think are doing it terribly, get as much information publicly as possible. If I have a company that can anonymize information in my field so that I don't know what brand it is, but they give me the general ideas of what the numbers are, that would be great benchmarks for me. And then I would only create, and I would look at success as if whatever those numbers and that data is, success is that I've hit those numbers or did better, and failure is beneath that. And all of that failure has to be learnings. And I would just continue to do that and dedicate myself for a long period of time. I'm going to give you an example. Is I was working with a company that I built out this whole plan of what they're going to do, and after a month, they went, we think we're going to go in a different direction. And I simply went, hey, you do what you need, but you don't, even if this failed, you don't have enough data to really understand the why behind it. So you've really got to do things for at least 6 months and very consistent, but it's not 6 months of garbage. It's 6 months of every time you do something, you become so psycho about why this performed or didn't perform, and then you just repeat this. At the end of the 6 months, you're going to be a brilliant marketer for your brand. You're going to understand your brand more than anything else. So
I'll double stamp that. You know, I shared early on, like YouTube's not easy, but it's worth it. It's like what I've seen for brands. It's like the training dojo of like, I mean, I'll be honest. Some of the other platforms let you be very lazy. So lazy that you can pop up a static photo with a little testimonial and people will buy your stuff. What does that really teach you about finding story market fit, about being able to tell your story? Not much. And so if you can not only create ads, but create, you know, organic content, create things that people actually want to watch, connect with people, it'll force you to become great at telling your story, and that is applicable everywhere.
yeah, and remember, you're also going after a community. You're trying to build a community around your brand. So, you know, even in saying that, it's like you can. It is so much cheaper to understand how your product should be and what your product should evolve to by creating content and listening to people, and like create a bad ad. Well, hold on, wait a minute, pulling back. When you're creating content, if you feel you created something bad, as long as it's not like damaging to your brand, where people are like, you can't go with that brand.
Like a Ring Super Bowl commercial.
Like a what?
Ring did the Super Bowl commercial that was just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
But as long as you're not destroying your brand, you still are going to hear from people where people are going to go, well, first of all, you got to be trusted in your content. But if people are talking about the product, you'll be able to adjust your product based off of putting out ads. Now, if you just had in your company, and you need all of it, of course, but if you just went off of what was in your company and, you know, 8 people in a boardroom wearing suits talking about a product, you're going to make a major change that could cost you millions. So shouldn't you take some of your production money and go, let's do some research and let's throw some money in research, not traditional market research, but research where we can get raw data instantly and raw feedback instantly. Let's create some product ads. Let's work with an influencer and have them review our product, you know?
So here's what we're going to do. You're going to be around later for,
Yeah,
okay,
I'll stick
so
around.
at our Olivia sponsored after party starting at 5, Sean's going to be there. I encourage you, if you can, to make time to seek him out and chat with him, because you're an idea machine. Literally, I mean, I would say you're a professional idea machine. And so definitely find him, check him out, and thank him for being with us here today. So thank you, Sean.